I'm vengeance.
You're goddamn right.
Hey everyone, welcome to Flickin' Things. My name is Daniel. Yeah, so before we get into this review, I just gotta say we have definitely come a long way from the first iterations of Batman, from Adam West's Batman in the 60s. To Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin.
7 million. Never leave the cave without it.
And even most recently, Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy.
Where were the other drugs going?
I never knew. I don't know. I swear to God.
Swear to me!
So this movie has been one of my most anticipated movies in recent years. Like when the first trailer came out, I was excited, and it seemed like everyone on the internet was pretty excited. It has seen, delay after delay and what seemed to be, an eternity, and what seemed to be like it was going to, like, just in limbo pretty much. It is now finally here.
It's been traveling 22 years to get here, and now it's here.
So this movie takes place, just 2 years after Bruce Wayne takes on the Batsuit. He's still fairly new to the job, and he comes, across pretty much his greatest foe yet, which is the Riddler. There's a series of murders that happen in the beginning of the movie, and sets off a cat and mouse chase between the Batman and the Riddler. And if you couldn't tell already at the beginning of this video, I absolutely love this movie. Matt Reeves, my man.
My man.
He has definitely solidified himself as one of the great directors that is out there today. I was a fan of his Cloverfield movie, and I was an even bigger fan of his Planet of the Apes movie, and now the Batman, just add that to the list. The soundtrack was amazing, easily one of the best soundtracks since The Dark Knight, and if I'm being honest, I think this might be my new favorite Batman soundtrack. The cinematography was great, especially during the chase scene involving the Batmobile. Some of the best cinematography you'll see, in a car chase scene. You can tell this movie is basically a love letter to film noir, and I absolutely applaud Warner Brothers for greenlighting this movie, because it's definitely not a genre that you really see in movies today. And the fact that they gave the okay to not only make a movie like this, but allow it to be done in a Batman movie, knowing that this could alienate probably the casual moviegoer. It's pretty impressive. You're not going to see, big explosions and a lot of action sequences, filled with CGI. You're just not going to get that, like anything like that here. This movie is, definitely a mystery crime thriller through and through. And if you're one of those people who wants to see those, action stuff like that, you're probably going to end up leaving the theater fairly disappointed, because like I said, this movie is a crime thriller. It is very grounded, almost too grounded, I want to say, and in reality, where sometimes I forget I'm actually watching a Batman movie, but I'll get into that later. One thing that I also loved about the movie is Batman finally gets to do some detective work, and that's something I haven't seen since the Batman animated series, if I'm being honest. I'm not gonna lie, when he was faced with these challenges, these riddles, and him pretty much being the smartest detective in the room and solving these mysteries, I'm not gonna lie, it had me all giddy inside and cheering inside, because it's something that I've been wanting to see on the big screen for a long time. And like I said, we just haven't got anything like that. We've seen snippets of it in the Batman Arkham Asylum games, especially Arkham Origins, which is an underrated game, if I'm being honest. But, I never got to see it on the big screen, or at least enough of him, putting his detective skills to work, because after all, he is the world's greatest detective, right?
Look at the blade. It's used by a cult of mercenaries based in Calcutta. Even the rope appears to be made of a hemp indigenous to that area.
Well done, detective. You are worthy of your reputation.
Now, comparing it to The Dark Knight, which is arguably the greatest Batman movie ever, that film was basically about how far Batman is willing to go, not only to be the hero that Gotham needs, but how far he's willing to keep the people he loves safe. Whereas in this movie, it's more, psychological and dealing with the psyche of Batman. He's faced with a reality that is Gotham, which is a place full of crime and corruption, and there hasn't been much change, since he's taken up the cape and cowl. So he's asking himself these questions, am I really making a difference? Am I really who I'm supposed to be? Am I even helping the right people? And the Riddler, he sort of forces his hand, pretty much makes him answer these questions and come face to face with these issues, that he's dealing with as being the Batman. And we just haven't seen anything like that in a Batman movie, which is what I really appreciate about this film, so much. So let's talk about the actors in the movie and the standouts. Yeah, they all stand out. It's honestly so hard to pick just one because everyone is great in this movie. If I'm being honest, Paul Dano was perfectly cast as the Riddler. I thought he did an amazing job. I mean, definitely a different take on the Riddler. One we haven't seen in either the comics or even in the big screen, but it definitely fits the tone of the movie and the role that, Matt Reeves has built here, and I think it works perfectly. There's also an interaction between him and Batman. In fact, there's a couple. There's one particular scene in the movie where they come face to face and have a conversation of sorts, and to me, that's honestly one of the best scenes of the movie. I thought Zoe Kravitz was, as Catwoman, was great. She and Robert Pattinson actually had some pretty good chemistry as the movie goes on. During the first couple of scenes they have with each other, I was a little worried, to be honest. I thought it wasn't going to go too well, but throughout the rest of the film, they actually do build that chemistry up, and I really enjoyed it. Colin Farrell was definitely a surprise, and he was, really unrecognizable in his role as Penguin. I thought he definitely, knocked it out of the park. Jeffrey Wright was excellent too. He and Batman have pretty good chemistry as well. Now, one character I want to talk about is Alfred, played by Andy Serkis. I did feel like we didn't get enough of him on screen, to be honest. There are certain things that happen in the film involving Alfred that are supposed to have like an emotional impact, but it just doesn't land because it has to do with, him not having enough screen time. And I think it was a missed opportunity. So I guess that leads me to my negatives of the movie. This movie is long. It comes just under, I think it's under 3 hours, like 2 hours and 50 something minutes. I did start to feel it in the last quarter of the movie. Some scenes dragged on a little too long. That definitely could have been cut out, or at least some of that runtime actually could have been used to develop Alfred a little bit more, because for the little screen time he has, he was great. Another issue I have is Robert Pattinson as Batman. Now, I know I said that everyone is great in this movie because they are, but I do feel Bruce Wayne himself, not Robert Pattinson, but Bruce Wayne himself, is a little, serious on the serious side. He's a little too somber. It's pretty established early on in the film that he's, to himself and basically a loner. We're all aware that Bruce Wayne is a wealthy man and has a playboy persona when he's not fighting crime. So I do wish we had the chance to see Robert Pattinson test his range as both Batman and Bruce Wayne as he tries to balance both characters. But unfortunately, we just don't get to see that. I think he plays, don't get me wrong, I think he plays Batman great. I think he's officially up there with Christian Bale and Keaton. But like I said, unfortunately, he's sort of a one-note character. He's pretty much Batman all the time, even when he's Bruce Wayne. I'm definitely not faulting him for that. Matt Reeves was obviously trying to go for a real gritty, serious tone, and for what he was given, he's great in the Batman role. Speaking of serious tone, as I mentioned earlier, this movie is very grounded, so grounded in reality. At times, I forgot I was watching a Batman movie, and I think it kind of hurts the movie towards the end. Batman has to do Batman things, and it kind of pulled me out of the movie a bit because it does get a little messy. It doesn't make the movie awful. It just reminded me, oh yeah, this is a Batman movie. Besides those minor gripes and the little bit of a messy ending, the rest of the movie is great. Like I said, I loved it. It's a Batman movie that I always wanted. It's not a perfect movie, but I do think it stacks up right there with the Nolan trilogy. And I feel like this movie will be talked about for years to come. If you're a big fan of neo-noir type films like I am, you're going to love this movie. I'm pretty confident to say that. If you're not, then you may or may not have such a good time. I did see stuff. I already seen people's reactions on the internet, and there were a few people were like, "Oh, it only has 2 action scenes" or something like that, and they were pretty disappointed. I guess it's like I said, not everyone's gonna love it, but it's definitely a movie for me that I just absolutely loved. And saying all that, let's wrap this review up and put a nice bow on it. I'm going to give this Batman 4 out of 5 Battinsons. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. Let me know what you guys thought of the movie. Also, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.